So welcome to St Philip's Christian College, Gosford, and our very first Information Day Zoom meeting. I'm Jane Jones and I look after enrolments at the college. You need to be aware that we're actually going to record this meeting today for public viewing. So you can turn off your camera if you'd prefer not to have your face shown in this meeting. We'll try and keep this meeting very short but informative, and we will start off by introducing the staff who are involved in the meeting today, and then we will have a video to share with you about our HAWK program, which is a selective extension and enrichment class for years 7 and 8. We also have a current parent joining us today, Ainslie. Hi Ainslie. Ainslie will just quickly share with us her experience at St Philip's for us. And then we will open up the rest of the meeting for question time. So I do ask that you can please refrain from using the chat facility until this time. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. I will go through how to do the chat when we get ready to do question time. So on that note, I'd like to introduce you to our principal, Mrs. Michelle Cairelli. Can you hear me, Michelle?
Mute myself, that would help.
Perfect.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. We're all getting used to this. Look, thank you for joining us. I will just do a brief introduction. My name is Michelle Cairelli. I'm the principal here. I've been working at the school for 21, nearly 22 years now. And my children came through the school. I've been an English teacher, a French teacher. I've done casual, I've done part-time over the years, and the last 11 years I have been the principal, and I love this school. I absolutely love it. In 2010, the school we only had about 303 students to be precise, and God told me that we were going to take this school, that he wanted me to lead this school from where it was to world class, all for the glory of God by 2020. Now the world class is hard work, but all for the glory of God is something completely outside of my control. And this is the situation that we're in now in 2020 is certainly outside of my control. But I have to say, and I'm going to make a big shout out to my staff because they are world class, all for the glory of God. And that is the heartbeat of our school, are amazing teachers. And so I'm going to pass you on to my amazing executive leadership team, and I will get them each to introduce themselves and say a brief few words about themselves. So Cameron.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name's Cameron Johnston. I'm the head of senior school here at St Philip's. Senior school is years 9 through to 12. So it's not a traditional model of secondary schooling that you'll hear a little bit more about as well through our head of middle school. But I've been at St Philip's here for the last 7 years, enjoying the immense privilege of working with some, as Michelle said, some amazing staff, but also some pretty amazing students. And we've seen some great stories come through over the last couple of weeks, especially as we've transitioned to online. So that's a little bit about me. I might hand it over to Mrs. Fahey, who's the head of middle school.
Morning, everybody. I am Bronwyn Fahey. I'm the head of the middle school here. Middle school is years 5 to 8. It is a structure that all of our campuses for St Philip's hold, where we have a middle school that is year 5, 6, 7 and 8. And that's designed to be a bit of a hybrid to bridge those upper years of primary school and lower years of secondary. And I'll speak a bit more about that a little bit later on. I've been here since 2012, so I'm in my 8th, 9th year. I'm not a maths teacher. And I've taught primarily in the middle school in that time, and I'm really passionate about what it is that we do in that space. I'll hand it over to our head of junior school.
Hello, I'm Helen Finlay, the head of junior school here. Junior school is kindergarten through to year 4. This is my 4th year at St Philip's Christian College in Gosford, and I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit with you about what makes us so unique and so special. I certainly love my job here. I feel very privileged to be here. I love the students, and I think we have a very, very special place indeed.
If we could have Claire. Claire, can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Claire Gray. I'm the head of inclusive education, which goes from kindergarten all the way through to year 12. So we support children who have any sort of learning difference or additional needs that are coming into mainstream education, to help them engage in the learning and feel comfortable and emotionally regulated, I guess, and be prepared for learning. So that's our role, and it's quite varied across the school. And I have a team of about 7 staff, I think, which is really exciting.
Wonderful. And Mr. Muddle.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Pete Muddle. I'm the Director of Studies and Instructional Leadership here at St Philip's Christian College, Gosford. This is my 2nd year at the college, and my key area of responsibility is to work with our teachers in developing a curriculum for our students that really challenges them to see the world from a Christian perspective, while affording our students opportunities to explore their areas of interest and ability, so that we can best prepare them to be shapers of culture in their lives now and beyond school. I'm looking forward to speaking more with you about those opportunities this morning. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you, Mr. Muddle. So we do have a Hawk video that we're going to show you. Mrs. Fahey, would you mind just letting us know what Hawk is, and if you could lead us into that video, that would be great, thank you.
So Hawk is a class that we have started. We launched it in just this year, in 2020. And Hawk stands for High Ability for Wisdom and Knowledge Enrichment. So we wanted to be able to provide a selective enrichment class for Year 7 and 8 to be able to offer something that teaches from a Christian worldview, which sets us apart from some of the other local high schools in our local area here. It has been launched with great success. We've got a class of 23 students who did have to sit an entrance exam to be able to fulfill a place within that class. We've got a gifted, educated, trained teacher on that class, and they do work within the middle school model of having a core teacher with specialist subject teachers as well. And the idea is to compact the curriculum for those students who may work through the stage 4 syllabus a little bit more quickly. So rather than them having to sit around and wait for other students to keep up, we've got a teacher there who can compact the curriculum for them and really extend them. It's not so much about accelerating as it is around really driving deep into their learning through the use of passion projects and extending them in their areas of giftedness.
Here at St Philip's Christian College, Gosford, we are dedicated to provide learning opportunities where all students can achieve their personal best and where they may begin to discover their passion and purpose. In 2020, we launched Project Hawk, a high ability program for wisdom and knowledge enrichment for students in Year 7 and 8. This specialised program is designed to challenge and stimulate the thinking of students who are academically gifted or have high potential. Taught by teachers experienced in gifted education, Project Hawk is a selective class that caters to the learning needs of students who require enrichment beyond the basic stage 4 curriculum. Project Hawk follows the structure of middle school with a core teacher who teaches a variety of subjects and takes an active role in the welfare of each student.
I'm really enjoying Hawk because it's fast-paced learning and everyone is keen to learn.
But Hawk overall, I feel like it pushes my limits more than what the other classes did before.
In Project Hawk, students engage with a range of subjects and content that is compacted in order to bring out the most authentic learning experience. At St Philip's, we provide an environment where students are able to work with greater independence and can engage in topics at a deeper level. Through Project Hawk, we recognise the importance of enriching students with both knowledge and wisdom. One of the ways we do this is through the use of passion projects. This is where students are able to condense their learning and complement it alongside developing their areas of giftedness. Our selective Hawk class takes a different journey through the curriculum than most. At present, core subjects such as English and history follow a 2-year cycle, whilst mathematics takes a more linear path to allow more direct focus on student skills and content. More specialised subjects such as science, creative arts and French are taught by additional, highly skilled teachers who are able to enrich students ready for their chosen electives in senior school.
Places are limited for Project Hawk. Visit the St Philip's Christian College Gosford website or call the college for an application form or for more information.
Thank you. Just on the subject of Project Hawk, Mrs. Fahey, can I just ask, do you have dates as yet as to when people need to get their applications in for that?
We do. So current enrolled students, applications are due tomorrow. We had extended the date because obviously the disruptions to learning at the moment. The application forms can be sent in electronically, so hopefully that shouldn't be too much disruption. The application date for non-current enrolled students is the 12th of June, which is midway through term 2. That date should stand. We did have plans for the selective entrance examinations to take place at the end of this term and next term, but at the moment they will be postponed until further notice, because obviously we'll need the students on site to do that. And we can't give a confirmed date yet as when they will be, but most likely at some point in term 3.
In term 3, and we'll probably put that on our website, I suppose, anyway, and keep everyone informed that way. Okay, wonderful. Okay, thank you. We'll move on next to our current parent, Mrs. Ainslie Quilty, who is going to share with us today just to let us know about her experience as a parent at St Philip's Christian College. Thanks, Ainslie.
Thanks, Jane. So I have been at St Philip's now for 7 years. I have 2 children, one in junior school and one in middle school. I was sitting down trying to list all the points that I would be able to talk about today and realised I only had a few minutes and I had way too many points for that. So I've tried to talk about the journey we've had that cover 3 important factors for us, which is love, compassion and community. The one thing that I have found is that the teachers at St Philip's genuinely care for your children like they are your own. I have one example of where a teacher stayed back. My youngest, who was only in year 1 at the time, was very confused as to if she was going to parent pickup or if I was meeting her, or if she was going to after school care. And this teacher had an appointment after school and she cancelled that appointment so that she could stay with Annabelle and calm her down until I was able to arrive at the school and pick her up. And it was actually through that bond and many other things with this teacher that they have formed such an amazing connection that still to this day, when Annabelle is in year 4, when she sees this teacher on campus, she greets her with a huge cuddle. They have cup of tea time together. It is just a glorious bond that they have that is unbreakable. My husband is in the army and he was deployed to Afghanistan, and the school went above and beyond to ensure that both myself and my children were supported during that time. They arranged a special tour for the children who were really anxious about starting a new year, so that they could sit down with the teachers and have a chat with them. They also arranged for Mrs. Cairelli to be available whenever the kids were feeling sad about their dad not being at home, to be available just for a cuddle and a chat to be able to cheer them up. And all of the teachers contributed a special gift box for the girls, which they had mementos to cheer them up. And on each of those little tokens were post-it notes from each of the teachers explaining why my children were special to them and the impact that they've had on their lives. And that to me meant more than anything anyone could have done, because it showed the care and compassion and love that they had for not only myself, but for my children. One of the things I love doing is I'm an avid parent. Ask all of the teachers online today, and I'm at every sports event and supporting everyone. And the joy I get from seeing all of the children right through junior school through to senior school, supporting and encouraging each other throughout all activities. If there is a child struggling, the year 12s will come in and support and lift them up to ensure that they feel a sense of achievement across a finish line or completing a task or anything like that. My eldest daughter has recently moved into middle school. She's in year 6 now. And the transition from junior school to middle school was flawless. The approach that middle school has taken with the kids in bridging that gap has really created an opportunity for Charlotte to mature and grow in independence, take more responsibility for her actions and accountability. And I am viewing a different child now to what I had in junior school with how she's flourished in this environment. One thing that I did want to talk about very briefly, and I know I'm taking up too much time, so I apologise, is that recently, as you all know, we've been homeschooling. The school was way ahead of any other school that I have spoken to with regards to their preparation for this, with regards to what they were teaching the children at school before this happened, and also everything that went on behind the scenes. So much work went on that we as parents are so grateful for. You can tell from their approach that the welfare, the mindset, the health, and also the learning of our children was their priority during this time and at the forefront of everything they did. It's been a very consultative process. The teachers have been online asking for feedback. From that feedback, they have adjusted their learning models to ensure that each child is feeling supported whilst working from home, as are the parents. And it truly shows that we are a world-class school for the glory of God. And I have been such a proud parent bragging to other parents from other schools about how dedicated and supportive our teachers have been, not just for my kids, but as myself as well during this time. So I am so grateful to be a parent of St Philip's and know that I have made the right decision in ensuring that my kids' education is where it's at, and I am blessed to be a part of this community.
Thank you, Mrs. Quilty. We really do appreciate you just putting aside some time and joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll open up the meeting now for questions. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can use the chat facility. There is, you'll see at the bottom of your screen, a little chat icon. You can tap on that icon, and when it comes up, we're going to ask you to address questions to me, Jane Jones, and to me privately if you can. Otherwise it gets a little bit confusing if everything's popping up on the screen. So what we will do though, I will ask a couple of questions first off that we've had some people ask already sent in to me. We might start off the meeting with that, and then if you feel like you have a question that we haven't covered, please feel free to use that chat facility. So to start off with, one question that gets asked quite often is, and I'm going to address this to Mrs. Cairelli, what does a Christian worldview mean, and how is it taught in the college? Could you please answer that, Mrs. Cairelli?
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. And Ainslie, thank you so much for your beautiful words. Really appreciate it. You're always a hard act to follow. I've just got a lump in my throat after you speak. So thank you very much for doing that for us. Really appreciate it. So what does a Christian worldview mean, and how is it taught in the college? So I guess there are two ways of answering that. The first way is probably the more obvious and less a direct answer, but actually every single one of my teachers, every staff member in actual fact, needs to be a practicing Christian and a member of a local church. And so I would hope that in all their conversations and in the way that they behave, that they actually model Christian values and beliefs to their students. And we also explicitly teach those values and beliefs in chapels, in pastoral care, in CLS. But something that you may not be as aware of is that I believe that as to be an authentic Christian, really you live every day and you see the world through the filter of the Word of God, through the Bible and Jesus's teachings. And so, for example, I am an English teacher, and when we taught A Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare, hopefully you're familiar with that. It tends to be a text that is taught in most schools. And I would teach the children about, what does the Bible tell us about honouring your parents? So perhaps why are there the complications in this play that there are for these young people? Because perhaps they're not exactly doing the right thing, and it gives you an opportunity to look at Christian ways of relating to each other and doing relationship. In geography, you might actually look at, if you're studying something about third world countries, how should we respond to that as Christians? And so we ask ourselves those questions. As Christian teachers, we follow the curriculum the same as any other school does, but we do teach from a very distinctly Christian worldview, and so both our values and our beliefs will come through as we are teaching. I hope that there's many more examples I could give, but I hope that answers the question, Jane.
Thank you. Just to add to that, Mrs. Cairelli, another question is that do families enrolling at the school, do they have to be a Christian family to enrol at the college?
Absolutely not. No, so it's my staff are Christian, but it's a completely open enrolment policy. And I would say we probably have more than half of our families would be from non-Christian homes, but that I think they send their children here because they love the beliefs and the values that we have, and they want them to be taught to their children.
Okay, wonderful. We do have some questions coming in, which I'm going to go straight into. The first question is it possible to move students to the school during the COVID-19 period? We've got here a student in Year 8 and the brother of 2 current students. So I'll quickly answer that and say, yes, it is. We are looking at the possibility of doing some online enrolment interviews or enrolment interviews with the social distancing laws in place. So if we have places, yes, that is possible. Does anyone else need to add anything to that? I think that there wouldn't be a problem with applying for enrolment in Term 2.
We do have some MacBooks and iPads available for new enrolments, and Mr. Jackson we've gone through some social distancing procedures that we would put in place if we did get enrolments during this period, and ways of being able to get the technology ready. Yeah.
Thank you. And I just had another question come in, and I might ask Helen and, Mrs. Finlay and Mrs. Fahey to answer this. I'm just wondering how much technology is used on a daily basis, as this is a concern for me. Tech is also used heaps at home, so I'd love that to be minimised at school. So can we, from the various sub-schools, Mr. Johnston, you could probably get involved in this as well. Are you able to answer that question in regards to the technology used at school, please?
Sure, and I would love to speak to that from the junior school perspective. We absolutely have an emphasis on explicit direct instruction. So I guess it might look like old-fashioned teaching to people who are my age and were at school where the teacher really did explicitly instruct. There's just so much research that tells us, particularly for the younger years, for them to get really good solid foundations in literacy and numeracy, they need explicit direct instruction. So that's device-free, explicit direct instruction led by the teacher at the front, embedding those skills. So as they get older and they're doing more student-centred inquiry learning, they actually have the foundational skills that they require. So the majority of our teaching is teacher-led. There are some student inquiry and pedagogies in our classrooms. There are, generally speaking, how I would say that we use our technology is to supplement the teaching that's happening in the classroom. The other way we use our technology is to inform you as parents what's going on. So not only will you get your report, twice a year, but we actually have a platform called Seesaw. So throughout any week, you might get a little notification on your phone, and the children have taken some photos and maybe recorded their voice over some of the learning that they've done in the classroom that day. And we use technology as a way to keep you in touch with what's going on in the classroom, so we can truly partner together. So it's supplementary. It's certainly not the way we teach the children in junior school.
I'll speak from a middle school perspective. Obviously, things are a little bit different at the moment when we are remote online learning at the moment. So things are in Term 2 are vastly different to how we would normally operate in the classroom if we were on campus. Being middle school, we have obviously stage 3, which is years 5 and 6. And stage 4, which is 7 and 8. So years 5 and 6 operate very similarly to the junior school in that we have primarily explicit direct instruction for maths and in English. So they wouldn't really be using their computers. We have the MacBook program starting from year 5. They don't usually use their MacBooks for those lessons unless they're using it as an extension to the task, which would be based around research or an independent project. As Helen said, she used the word that I was going to use, which is it is a supplementary tool. So particularly in years 5 and 6, we would probably see it coming more out using in subjects such as the creative arts for designing projects and using things like GarageBand in music. And obviously for research, that's where we really start teaching them their research skills in years 5 and 6 around in history and geography and science. In stage 4 for years 7 and 8, our focus is really on teaching them to use the technology well. We live in an age where technology is around us. We want to make sure that the students have the skills. So it is, again, used as a supplementary tool. A lot of our textbooks are now available digitally, which actually helps the students not having to lug heavy textbooks around for multiple subjects. But there'd be days out of a 6-period day, it wouldn't be used in every period through the day, and it would depend on the subject that they have. I'm sure Cameron will speak to this more in senior school too, but the students are encouraged to use the technology to help support their time management and their independence around their own learning. So where junior school may use Seesaw, we use a program or a platform called iLearn for years 5 right through to year 12. And that's what we would use to be able to communicate with our students. That's what we're using at the moment with our remote online delivery of learning. So we've got systems in place. But in terms of day-to-day in the classroom, it varies from subject to subject, but it is not our primary tool. Obviously, the face-to-face teaching is more important.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, I'll be brief, but absolutely, technology is very much part of our lives, isn't it? It's everywhere, and so I want to echo what's been stated, but also to say from a senior school perspective, we want to make sure that they're using their technology responsibly, and we want to be able to prepare them for life beyond school as well. So there needs to be some maturity around it, but also in the classroom, and obviously in terms of preparing students for the HSC, I want to be able to reassure you that as long as the HSC is a written examination, they still need to be maintaining their written skills. And so there'll be a lot of work that teachers will use the MacBooks for in terms of as a resource, but the students will also have exercise books, both in terms of taking their notes as a skill, but also in developing their handwriting skills. So that when it comes to the HSC, their handwriting is still legible and can be marked according to their merit as opposed to their ability in their cursive writing.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. Mrs. Finlay, I do have somebody inquiring about kindergarten, wanting to know if there's going to be another time where we can give more information about kindergarten, or is there anything maybe you'd like to share just in regards to how our kindergarten operates, Mrs. Finlay?
Yeah, gorgeous. Well, in our kindergarten classes, we have around about 22 is our maximum that we're going to have in each kindergarten class. Generally speaking, we have 2 kindergarten classes in any given year. This year we have 1 class of 18 students and 1 class of 19 students in the kindergarten. Kindergarten is such an important year, and that is when we're using a system of teaching reading that's called synthetic phonics. So it's again very research based. So the children are learning to hear the sounds in words, they're learning to read. We have a period of time that's set aside, so every single morning we have a literacy block, so nothing else happens other than learning to read and write in that block. Then we have a numeracy block where nothing else happens but learning to work with numbers in that block. And then generally speaking, after lunch in the afternoon, the children are doing things like sport and going to the library, music, history, geography, those sorts of subjects. But it's just an incredibly important year to be setting the foundations in literacy and numeracy. And so we do that very well. The kids are tracked, so we look at their individual data. You will be very informed as a parent as to where they're at and how they're going with learning to read and write and do numeracy. And we keep you very well informed and truly try to partner with you in the kindergarten years. And something we've introduced this year that's been very successful is instead of the traditional recess and lunch break, we now actually have more breaks. It's based on some research that's come out of Finnish schools in particular. There's a lot of talk about why Finnish schools do so very well. So we've introduced more play breaks. So the children will learn for about an hour before they're out having an active free play break, and then coming back in and learning for another hour, and then heading back out for some active free play. And we're finding that that's been incredible in terms of their engagement, and I'm really excited to see our literacy and numeracy results sort of, I guess, be indicative of this increased engagement we have in the classrooms.
And Mrs. Finlay, what does the transition into kindergarten involve?
In what way do you mean?
I think the question here is about how a child would transition from preschool into kindergarten.
Yep, I understand. We have a program called the Flying Start program that starts in term 4. So you would have, if you're interested to have your child join us in kindergarten, they will have spent some time with me, and we will have some one-on-one time in a kindy interview, so I just can get to know your child and have a little bit of an understanding about where they're at. Then we have a program called the Flying Start program, and that runs for 4 weeks. It's one afternoon a week for 4 weeks in term 4. This is a wonderful opportunity for the children to meet their new kindergarten teachers and experience big school. They'll spend one afternoon a week for 4 weeks in big school, getting to know one another, going for a tour of the school, just starting to understand the routines of kindy. It's also wonderful for the parents because the first one we have a parent information session, and that's a chance to get to know each other because you form a village. You will very much be in contact with one another through the years that your children are here at school. We've got a great community here. So that's how we do it. So by the time they're at school in the following year, they've already had a fair bit of time in their classroom. They've met their new students. And then on top of that, whereas the rest of the children start school traditionally, in kindergarten for the first 2 weeks of school, we actually book an appointment with families. So mum and dad will meet with one of the kindy teachers, and that kindy teacher will talk to mum and dad about what do we really need to know about your student to ensure that they have a wonderful time with us, and we begin to build a relationship there. And the other teacher will be just doing some basic testing in numeracy and literacy and all those sorts of things, so we know exactly where your student is at the beginning of the year, so we can track their progress as the year goes on. So that's how we transition them in.
Thank you. Mrs. Gray, what learning support is available at the college? Can you, we'll just unmute you. There you go, Claire.
Thanks. I was trying to unmute myself and it wasn't working. Sorry. So we have learning support. So in all across from kindergarten now through to year 8, we actually run a literacy intervention every morning. And that involves connecting in with the multi-lit program through Macquarie University, and children come out in small groups for periods of time to have extra instruction in literacy. We also run, or people in my team support teachers and students in small groups around numeracy. Sometimes that's in the classroom, working alongside teachers and students, and sometimes at the teacher's request, that might be taking small groups into the breakout rooms that are just off the classrooms around certain tasks. So it's a very flexible, fluid type of intervention. As far as we have social skills support, so we have that running through all of junior school. We run a Let's Do Lunch program for a low sensory type Let's Do Lunch and cooperative games every lunchtime. So that's in the playground or in a classroom, depending on the weather. And in middle school, we run a program called Game On, and that's more, it is cooperative games as well, and then sports-based. So often in the hall with soccer or table tennis, which is really great. We also give support to individual students through lunch around having opportunities to serve in the canteen or to serve in the library. So we organise those if there are certain students that might find having their time occupied in that way is more beneficial for them. As far as individual support goes, we look at assessment support from, well, anywhere really from year 3 through to year 12, but it becomes more apparent and more necessary for us to have either very small groups or individual time with students to support them in structuring their assessments, maybe adjusting their assessments alongside the teachers, or scaffolding them and helping them organise and plan what they're going to do to present their assessments. A lot of the children are on an individual educational program, so their needs are quite individual, and we work closely with teachers to provide flexibility in how we're going to support them to be really well regulated and engage in alongside their peers, mostly in the classroom. Let me think, what else do we do? we're sort of a jack of all trades. We really try to support children wherever their needs are at. We also run, exam support, and that includes small group opportunities for their having exams, pre-recorded exams for those children that need readers when they get to year 12, and adjusted time and adjusted, they have rest breaks. So, and then for those children that are on actually maybe pre-stage outcomes or specific indicators within outcomes and are not necessarily working at the same pace of their peers, we try to reflect that in their school reports by having an adjusted report that really shows you what your child is achieving, as you know that they're not necessarily needing to be measured against their peers. Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Gray. We actually have a senior school question now, which I'll ask Mr. Muddle. Can you please explain the current subject choices that you have, but also the new learning options that has become available, particularly this year, Mr. Muddle, with vet courses, etc. Would you mind explaining that for me, please?
So we run a traditional HSC here, so you know, the subjects that you would expect in any school, all levels of English, from English as an additional language and English studies all the way up to English extension, to all the levels of maths, all the sciences and TAS subjects, and anything you could possibly expect at school. But one of the other things that we're doing that's very exciting is that we are rolling out a number of vocational education training courses, which are courses that in the past students would either go off to TAFE to do as part of their HSC, or they might have to wait until they'd finished their schooling, even if they knew exactly what they wanted to do, and then head off to TAFE or to university to study some of these courses. And so at the moment, we are offering 5 different vet courses here at St Philip's. Just to give you an idea, they're quite diverse. So we have a Christian Ministry and Theology course. It's a Certificate 3 level course. We have a Certificate 2 in Outdoor Recreation course. We have a Certificate 3 in Early Childhood Education and Care, which equips students to attain a qualification and work in a childcare centre. We also run a Certificate 2 in Information and Digital Technology, where students will work in the IT industry as part of their work placement, and it makes them job ready. And then we also offer hospitality in food and beverage as an option. Now, not only for year 11 and 12, but we've also started offering that to our year 10 students who can finish an HSC course in hospitality 1 year before finishing their HSC, and the plan at this stage is to offer those students a Certificate 3 in tourism, because there's so much crossover between hospitality and tourism. So those students may well leave school with a Certificate 2 in hospitality and tourism, which just gives them great opportunities for the workforce. Now, just as one very quick example, we have 2 students from year 12 from last year. One of them did some fitness courses as part of their HSC and is currently working in the fitness industry without having to train after school, already working. And another one of our students completed a Certificate 3 in Early Childhood and is running a family daycare business. And so we are trying to meet our students where they are at in terms of their interests and abilities, and giving them more options than just a traditional HSC.
Wonderful. Thank you. I might have each sub-school answer in regards to class sizes. I know Mrs. Finlay has touched on that a little bit, but it is something that parents are very interested in as to how large or small our classes are. Mrs. Finlay, do you want to start with that, and then we'll go to Mrs. Fahey and Mr. Johnston?
Sure. In kindergarten, we tend to have, as I said before, it's capped at 22, as it is in year 1 as well. But actually, at the moment, our average class size is around about the 22 to 24 student mark, even in years 3 and 4 as well. So they're nice small classes.
Mrs. Fahey?
In middle school, years 5 to 8 have the same limit, and that is 28 students per class. Obviously, depending on the size of the cohort across each year group, that will depend on the size of each individual class. At the moment, our Year 5 classes have around 24 students. So there's a little bit of room there, and right up to Year 8 at the moment, we've got around 18 to 19 in each class. So it does depend on the cohort size. For some subjects that require smaller class sizes, such as our ministry technology classes for woodwork, metalwork, food technology, they do require smaller classes. So we redistribute our core classes, which are capped at 28. We redistribute those into smaller groups so that we can maintain our work health and safety restrictions on the sizes of the numbers of students allowed in those practical spaces. And that's usually limited to no more than 22.
Wonderful. And Mr. Johnston?
Yeah, thanks. Our situation in senior school will probably be slightly different in some aspects, given the elective nature that we have for our subjects. So maybe one outlier that I can share with you, for example, is that some of our extension subjects may only have one student. So we will offer extension subjects to the students. If they are interested in taking them up, we will run them regardless of the number of students that are interested. In terms of the other elective courses, it'll be based on general interest from the students. So that could range from 6 through to 20. But again, it depends on the size of the cohort.
Wonderful. And I'm just going to ask Mrs. Fahey one quick question before we start wrapping this up. There is quite often people don't understand what middle school is or why. Why do we do middle school compared to the primary high school sort of setup?
Mm-hmm. So the middle school model is sort of the direction of our executive principal from St Philip's, Graham Irwin, and also Stephen Fyson, who's part of the foundation team there. And they are quite passionate about the middle school model, where it's a really challenging time, particularly in those pre-adolescent years, where those children are they're growing so dramatically, both physically, cognitively, spiritually, physically, that we want to be able to provide a space for them to be able to navigate those changes. So for years 5, 6, 7 and 8, each of those classes have a pastoral care teacher, and that teacher knows those children really personally. So even in Year 8, our students have a pastoral care teacher that they see at the same time every single day. That teacher will teach them for multiple subjects through the day, and those teachers get to know those children. They know their passions, they know their giftings, that they help them to unlock those and tap into those. In the upper primary years, if you've got a child in Year 4, I hear this quite often as they reach sort of the upper end of their primary years. They're already starting to outgrow that sort of junior school setting. They're eager for greater independence. They want it to be able to be, they want to be empowered in their learning. They need that responsibility. Mrs. Quilty was referring to this earlier. So in Years 5 and 6, we start to treat them with a lot more independence. The MacBook program is part of that. And we start encouraging them to take greater responsibility for their learning and their organisation, their time management. But they still have that core teacher that has them for most of their subjects. When they go to Year 7 and 8, most of those children are still only 11 or 12 when they go into Year 7. They're still very young. In a traditional high school setting, they would be thrown into a high school where they're competing in the playground with kids who are 16, 17 or even 18. So what we do is we provide a smooth transition from Year 6 to Year 7, while still providing that really strong structure of a core teacher. And it's a more gradual process. So in Year 7, they would have their core teacher for multiple subjects while still being able to access all of the resources from the high school and still have access to the high school teachers. And then when they're in Year 6, they get to meet and even be taught by some of those teachers that they will have in high school. So at the moment, our Year 5 and 6 students are being taught woodwork by one of the woodwork teachers who is based in the high school. So they only see them once a week, but it's enough for them to start building that relationship. So it starts becoming a much more gradual transition into high school. And that hopefully helps to bridge that primary and secondary and looks after their well-being in a really pivotal time of their growth and development.
Thank you very much. So before we finish off with questions, I just want to open it up to our staff if there is any other information you'd like to add before we start closing up the meeting. Anybody want to raise a hand? I feel like we've covered everything there. Well, what I will just mention quickly before we finish off, and then Mrs. Cairelli is going to take you on a school tour if you'd like to stay on. But I will mention just in regards to enrolments, if you are interested to put an enrolment application in, we will be doing that online. So that is when you go to our website, you'll see an enrolment section and you just click on that. There's a how do I enroll sort of subject there that you click on, and that will take you through to the application page. So I would recommend that you get your applications in if you're applying for 2021 by the end of April, and we will look at doing enrolment interviews next term. So as we're still working out how that will look, but we will let you know. I'll be the one in contact with you to organise those meetings, however we decide to go ahead and do them. But I do strongly suggest and advise that you get your applications in by the end of April. And if you have any questions regarding enrolments, please feel free to email me. I have actually sent my email through to you. You've got my email address already from setting up this meeting. So just feel free to email me with any further questions. So whilst Mrs. Cairelli is getting ready, she's actually going to do a virtual tour of the college. You are welcome to stay and watch that tour. If you've seen the college already and that's not something that you need to watch, then please feel free to leave the meeting. That's quite all right. But before we do that, we might actually just close in prayer. Mr. Johnston, would you mind doing that for me, please?
Sure, not a problem. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give you great thanks that you're an amazing God, you're a sovereign God, you're in control of all things. And Father, we thank you for this amazing school that you have blessed us with to be a part of. Father, we pray for the prospective parents that are looking at the school, perhaps for the first time. Father, I pray that you'll give them wisdom as they make their decisions around the education for their kids. Father, guide their thoughts and help us to represent you well and all that we are doing in this place. Father, we thank you for the time that they have given to us this morning, and just pray a blessing and protection over their family during this difficult time as well. So, Father, we thank you for all that you are doing in this place, and we give you all the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And thank you, Mr. Johnston. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on a very interesting first experience virtual meeting, and we're just wonderful. We're just so happy that you could join us all. We've got Mrs. Cairelli on standby there. Hello.
Hello.
And she's about to take you on a tour. But once again, thank you very much. I'll hand it over to Mrs. Cairelli.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Look, I haven't done this before, and I'm not sure how many of you are still there, but I've done a quick rundown to kindergarten. I just thought it would be lovely for you to see the beautiful big rooms that we have in kindergarten. So where we are at the moment is a double space. You can see we have the operable walls there, so it comes across. They're extremely soundproofed, and they also have whiteboards on them and pinboards on them to display the children's work, but then they fold across very neatly like that, so we can open up this huge space for our kindergarten to do things together. I love coming in this room. It's a little bit lonely without the children. They always, when I come down, they always say, "Good morning, Mrs. Cairelli, and God bless you." And I'm missing those sounds at the moment. But they're reading books. They've all got their own little tote trays, and I think you'll agree it's an absolutely beautiful learning space, just a little echoey and empty at the moment. Take you through from the kindergarten room. You walk out and into this lovely indoor-outdoor space. It's actually AstroTurf on the bottom there, but it's really lovely for the children to be taught outside some days and get a bit of fresh air, and they have their little fruit breaks and have their lunch here as well. We've got the hall up there. It's a bit of a grotty day and it'll take you too long to walk around, but you can see the hall up there. That's got a fully kitted out stage and green room and change rooms, and we can seat comfortably about 700 people in the hall, so we're really blessed to have that as a facility. You can see over here as well that we have our school oval, and it's closed today because it's a little wet and squishy, but it is wonderful to have an oval for our children, both to play and also as they go through the school, obviously for their sports lessons. So I'm going to, I'm walking over now to what I think is every junior school child's favourite part of the school. It's a relatively new addition to our school and we're very proud of it. And here we are. This is our junior school playground. I'm not exactly got the best shoes on for this, but as you see, it's a lot of fun. Mrs. Finlay and I were actually the first ones to go down the double slide together. I won't be doing that today because it's very wet. I'm going to take you now. We're going to walk past the basketball court. This is a shared space with all three sub-schools, and because we have different times where the children are out of class for recess and lunch, we share that space really well, and obviously got all the markings there for different games and a great facility again for our sports department and our teachers there. Alrighty, now
sorry, Sorry, Michelle. I'm just going to say that some of our staff will be leaving as they do need to go to some other meetings. So I just wanted to say that there are some staff leaving that just wanted to say a quick.
Oh, that's fine, and thank you.
Okay.
Thank you to them. I can't see you at the moment, but thank you very much for turning up wherever you are.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah. So, am I left with parents now, Jane?
Yes. So people, there are still parents involved. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. As you can see here, it's a good spot to see. We're on a hill, so we have amazing views. You can see the beautiful bush setting that we have, and I always love that about our school, just the natural beauty there. And we use the hill there for orienteering. We have a bike, what do they call it, mountain bike track up there as well. And we do have plans for other things if we can work on that. At top, we have senior school at the top, middle school in the middle, and junior school at the lower end of the hill. Now, just passing here, and we have our admin building. So you will possibly have met Mrs. Jones in there, and also my own office is there. Walking up now, the steps for the Information Resource Centre, which is probably more often referred to as the library. We're supposed to call it the Information Resource Centre, and you'll see why. This is a beautiful building, gorgeous views. I just, sorry, I love the views from our school. I think it's one of my favourite parts of our setting. So walking into the Information Resource Centre now and into the tiered learning area, the TLA. So we have a lot of meetings in here, whole grade groups can be in here, and also very helpful because we've got the data projector there onto a big screen, which is great for wet weather at lunch times if the children need to have or extremely hot weather if they need to watch a movie at lunchtime. Here we have, this is like our IT support bar. You can see that Mr. Jackson and what's his name? Bradley, Mr.
Snowden. Mr. Snowden.
Mr. Snowden. Thank you, Jane. Thank you. I get so used to calling people by the way. So Mr. Snowden and Mr. Jackson, and they can do little group training sessions around these tables. At the moment, of course, we're social distancing, and it's actually well set up for that. So if you do choose to enrol your children before the end of the year and during the COVID-19 restrictions, we'll be very mindful of doing that safely. Obviously, lots of library books. This I think I would spend a lot of time here and looking out at that beautiful view through these huge windows here. I love this. I think this is my favourite spot in the library, if not in the school. I love that. I love that. And this is the junior fiction section, and you can see we do have library lessons as well. We've got beautiful librarians who are very friendly. The library gets very full at lunchtimes, particularly if it's wet or it's really hot. They do lots of currying competitions, and they really encourage the children to read. They're absolutely beautiful. You can see here set up for a class group for library lessons, and for children who prefer to read quietly, we have a little tent there. I reckon that is so cute. Even little cuddly toys for them to hug while they're reading. So now I'm walking up the ramp to, so that's a shared space, but the room that we're about to go into is our Year 12 study room. Now this is a really beautiful space for them to study, and hopefully encourages them to do just that. Here's Mrs. Fahey's in here too, head of middle school. But as you can see, it's a really inviting room, and if children are doing group work, there's some comfortable seats for them to sit on and sit around a little coffee table, or more traditionally they can turn their back, sit against the wall, they can work at the other tables. But I think that there's lots of beautiful spaces for these children, for our older students to study there. Here are our little rooms that have been set up. Sometimes we have small classes in there, but mainly for intervention. Our rooms there. Now we're about to go into what is our newest building, and this part of it, it's our technology building, but this part here, which joins the Information Resource Centre to the Technology Centre, is we're not exactly sure what we're calling it yet. It's a multi-purpose area. We sort of refer to it as the breezeway. And we've had, so it's just grabbed the imagination of our teachers. So we've had some really wonderful creative and performing arts sessions in here. It's great for hosting parent meetings, and yeah, our teachers do wonderful things in here. Now I'm going to take you through into the wood tech room. We do have metal as well. So in the machine room, I'm not sure, I hope I'm saying the right words here. Probably have a look through the window there. I don't know, David. You can see, oh, I don't know if you can see, we do have a laser printer somewhere.
It's in the STEAM lab.
Not mine. Sorry, what's that, Jane?
The laser printer is just in the STEAM lab where you are.
Oh, it's in here, is it?
Yes, to your left, unless it's been moved.
As you walk to
your left.
We've got laser printers, but we've also got the, oh, what's the thing where it cuts things out? What do you call that? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Oh, hang on.
You're just going to have to just...
3D printer and laser cutter. Okay, yeah.
Yes, laser cutter.
Laser cutter.
I think I need to go back to school. I love this room. This is amazing. We've got these little booths here where the children can do their group work, and they do sometimes try to order a milkshake, which is a little bit cheeky. The tiered learning area there as well, with storage underneath, so all our robotics equipment is in there. We have, I love this, I don't know, it's but a whiteboard, and then you've got all your storage and your brain box electronic kits, and who knows what else there. Very flexible desk here that we can move around. Just a really, really creative environment. Promethean board, which is like a smart board on wheels, but and I haven't actually used this one, I must admit, but apparently it's wonderful. Now into our hospitality room. Now this is we just got this building all refurbished, graded this towards the end of last year. So being able to start this year off with this as well is wonderful, but of course, at the moment, you can see all the plastic sheeting and the notes on it because we're not allowed to touch anything. It's all been thoroughly disinfected, and we're not really allowing people in here at the moment, but it is an amazing facility, and hospitality is a very, very popular course at our school. So here I am back in the breezeway again. I'm not sure, are we going, I can finish, yeah, I think.
Our main areas.
Yeah, look, I think it's the main areas of interest. We've you know, the classrooms, they are lovely, and we've got creative furnishings and all that sort of thing, but I think you probably get the gist of what the school looks like and how beautiful it is. And thank you very much for joining us. Is that okay, Jane?
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You could do my job.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much, Cairelli. That's wonderful.
All right.